Hello,
Hello.
everyone. We wanted to talk about the new Rey and Kylo kits that have just been released. Or rather, Rey and Supreme Leader, uh, whatever Kylo. I was going to say Snoke, but he's not released. So um, yeah, we wanted to talk about that a little bit. My name's Xaereth, and I have a YouTube channel called Xaereth Prevails. This is my good buddy SoloBass15,
Hello.
and he has a YouTube channel as well. As far as I know, it doesn't have any pretentious names yet.
Not yet.
um, but we're both Grand Arena specialists, and we want to talk about the PvP aspects, probably more than others, involving the new Kylo and Rey kits, the things that we're thinking about. And, the other thing I want to point out is Solo and I also do have a podcast that we share that's also centered around Grand Arena. So we're going to be talking about these kits a lot, I think, on all our different mediums. So if you guys want to hit us up and check out all our different varying sources of information you can. They'll all be in the video description if you so choose.
All right. Well said, sir. Now, let's get into the meat of the discussion, and that is, why don't we start with Rey since she was the first kit released? So it just
Yeah.
makes sense to start with her kit. So, uh, they give the little thumbnail screen at the start of all the posts that, just a quick hitter that says a couple of the highlights of her. And so the first things it shows is that she is an attacker, she's a leader, and she's resistance. She will not be Jedi.
Which is an interesting choice because she even said at one point she is all Jedi.
Yes. So my guess is this is due to game balance issues, quite frankly. Uh,
I'm sure.
yeah. Because just reading these kits, as we will shortly, put her under a Jedi Knight Revan lead as a Jedi or any really of the Jedi leads, and she will do even more filthy things than she already can do. Um,
Well, and one thing I want to point out too, people who are saying that it's dumb that she's not a Jedi, I get that. But these are Galactic Legends, and they specifically targeted First Order and Resistance as this is the pinnacle of those two factions. And I would agree with that actually. They are the two most iconic from those factions. Unless some of the purists want to talk about it being General Leia or whatever. I would say I would argue that it is accurate though. They're the two most important people in those factions, and despite Rey's extremely grandiose claim that she is all Jedi, I don't think anyone who's watched all the movies would actually say that that's accurate.
that's
So
probably true. Until we get to the Rise Ray. Rise Ray. Um, okay.
right,
Let, let's start getting into this kit a little bit. And so you can
right now that
see,
we've covered the lore aspects of it.
right. And I would agree that I think she could have been a Jedi, but like you said, if you made her a Jedi, just gave her that tag in this game, she would become a Jedi in this game and she would not become Resistance. And that completely defeats the purpose of having a Resistance leader on the team. Um,
Right. You would think that for Galactic Legends, we'd have someone like Mace, or a third more powerful version of Yoda, or someone who actually encapsulates actually what the Jedi are and what their whole thing is. Not some girl who's like, I've heard of the Jedi.
right. I think I met a Jedi once. He was kind of cranky, though. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So let's take a look at her abilities. On the screen right now, we have her first ability. It's the basic, where she's basically going to do physical damage to a target enemy, and if it's her turn, she gets to hit again. She has 50% health steal, ignores 50% of the target armor, and her health steal becomes doubled when she's under 50% health. So, first thing, what are your first thoughts when you read that basic ability?
Well, I mean, it's your basic, and I thought it was interesting. There's a thing that talks about she deals damage a second time if it's her turn. Like clearly they had some kind of a balance issue with calling her to assist or something.
I'm sure, yeah.
Um, it,
As I read this entire kit and Kylo's entire kit, all I can think about with some of the wording is, well, they did that because of some sort of gameplay testing.
oh sure, there's all kinds of just random things that are disallowed now.
Yeah,
And frankly, I until we play it, we won't see exactly how soul crushing that is. But I will say that right off the bat, it's a little nerve wracking. Like it just in the back of my mind, I know that there's no Treya comps or compositions with involving Nihilus right now that deal with General Skywalker, but in the back of my mind, I've always just kind of had that thought of, well, I could always just annihilate him, you know,
right.
and that kind of stuff is just gone. It's missing from this kit. Kind of just denies a lot of these various vulnerabilities that we're used to. So we'll have
Right.
to look. We'll have to look for more uh, alternative methods rather than just annihilate and call it good.
Yeah. I think the big highlight of this basic ability is just the survivability she's going to have. I think my biggest complaint when we first got General Skywalker, and well, about 2 months later when we first started really fighting 7-star R7 Skywalkers, is every one of his counterattacks had what? I think he has 35% health steal. Uh, so you would have him in red, he would counterattack twice, and all of a sudden he had full health. Well, now Rey has 50% health steal, and if she's in the red or even in the yellow, she has 100% health steal. So
Right.
she's going to be a pain to bring down.
Oh, she truly is. And it's gonna be. I like her basic because like in a way they made it so that she's not broken when she's assisting. Like maybe she'll do a lot of damage, but she has all of like the only thing she does when she assists is she does damage.
Right.
uh when it's her turn, then she does damage a second time. She has all this extra health steal. She ignores armor, and that's good because she doesn't. She has kind of a limited range of abilities. Like she has a lot of effects and various things that make her good. But in terms of like things that she can do other than just like stand there's not a ton. Like she has one special that she won't be able to use except for specific times, and the other special is she's only going to be able to use it a couple times. There's going to be a cooldown. So um this basic is very strong for basic, I think.
Yeah.
At least if she does a lot of damage, which we don't really know that yet. But I guess it's nice because it is a pretty good basic.
Right. And I can't imagine that she does not do good damage. I can't fathom that they build this kit and then have her hit like Barris.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Uh, but who knows?
She is an attacker at
Right.
least, so they
But
acknowledge that she should be doing damage. Whether or not she does it might be another question. But
right. And who knows? Maybe her basic is weak just because of balance issues. We kind of have to wait and find out.
right, it's all as far as damage goes. We just don't know. It's impossible to say. They could even give us a number, what her physical offense is going to be, and we'll still have no idea if it's
Right.
going to be good or not
Yeah.
because of modifiers. That there's all this math that goes on behind the scenes. Like Vander Chewbacca has a huge damage amount on offense, and on his basic he does like almost nothing because his modifiers in the background are doing things. So
Right.
um, yeah, we won't know,
Yeah.
but uh, good for basic, and uh, I guess we can move on.
Yeah. So, uh, ability number two, it's her first special, is Rey sacrifices 25% of her health and a target light side ally gains bonus protection amount to equal to the health that she lost. And then all other light side allies, God, can't talk, allies gain half of that amount. Meanwhile, if Rey is at full health when she uses the ability, all light side allies gain crit hit immunity for 2 turns.
Are those
Then,
like Diagon Alley? It
yeah,
would be a light
exactly.
side version.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
Uh, and then, additionally, because that's not it, a target other ally gains lifeblood until they are defeated or until you give lifeblood to somebody else. And what lifeblood is damage received is decreased by 30%, and damage dealt is increased by 30%. So it's basically a damage modifier and making whoever she gives this to tougher to kill. Uh, Reading this, well, let me back up. When we looked at that little thumbnail up at the top of the kit, uh, they suggested Chewbacca in there. And when I first saw that, I was like, why are you suggesting Chewie? And then I read this ability, and Chewie was literally the first one that came to my mind because you give lifeblood to him, and whoever he guards, he's going to assist with, which means he's going to assist and deal 30% more damage than he already does. And then he takes his own turn and again deals 30% more damage. And on top of the survivability that we're going to talk about later that Rey already gives, he's going to then give out his own buffs with guard. It reminds me of when I used to run Chewie in Arena with Jedi Knight Revan. Only he's going to hit even harder this time. Uh, in my mind, Lifeblood could be quite filthy when used right.
Yeah, I think so. And I was thinking too. I mean, that this can just be applied to so many things. Like Stormtrooper Han is already so obnoxious to kill right now at Relic
True.
7.
True.
If you throw this ability on him, like the damage received is 30%. It's decreased by 30%, I should say, and you're wasting the damage dealt piece. But I mean, he's already impossible to kill. Now, uh, it's going to be a thing, is my guess.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about potential team comps later, but I can tell you, I probably will not be running a tank on my team. Um, you
You
could
could have guessed
also,
that.
yeah. You could also give this to Scav Ray, and I mean, she was hitting hard before. Now we have her R7, which just makes her scary. And then you give her 30% more damage, and you make her 30% less squishy. And you know, she might
It,
be the one that you end up having to target first on this team, just to make sure she doesn't hit you.
it's true. Yeah, she does 4 hits, and all of them are increased by 30, and she's squishy anyways, so a little decreased damage is nice.
Right.
Yeah, this will be good. This is it's very akin to guard. I mean, there are obvious differences, but put next to guard with Chewie, it could be pretty gross. I We might see it in arena. I have my doubts that we're actually going to see it in Grand Arena.
Yeah. Well, Grand Arena. While I was reading this kit, that's the one thing I thought of when I was trying to think of team comps to come up with. I can think of a lot of fun team comps for Arena, but every one of the fun team comps I came up with would basically sacrifice a Grand Arena team. So, like, I wouldn't keep Chewie with her in Grand Arena. Uh, and there's a couple other members that we'll talk about later that I wouldn't keep with her as well, just because they're going to break up an important team.
Right. Um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting scenario. I mean, we see right now we see Darth Revan a lot with, well, I see it on my shard. I see it sometimes with the Geo Brood Alpha and Watt.
Yeah.
Um, and that's an effective comp to take down General Skywalker. I've actually lost to that before. Uh, even as I'm controlling General Skywalker, and um, the thing is, I don't have to worry about it in Grand Arena because that takes out three different good teams.
Right. Yeah. Um, or that's like the Darth Revan plus Han comp, which again is very good at taking out uh, General Skywalker, but you're likely not to see that in Grand Arena as well.
Right,
I think the same thing's going to happen with these kits.
right. We'll eventually get one prescribed kit, and we'll see probably improvements on that over time. But at some point, people are going to be like, "Oh, I had to face a Ray team," and everyone will know basically what's going to be on
Right.
it.
Yeah. Um, all right. So moving on to her final ability, her special two. Uh, this one deals 3 times massive damage to a target enemy, then deal physical damage to all enemies. And any enemy defeated by this ability can't be revived. The attack can't be countered, and it can't be evaded. Uh, Now, the one caveat in this, and this came out after the initial kit release, is that the ability can't be used unless a light side ally dropped below 60% health. A, the first time, and B, since the last time it was used. So, to use this ability, somebody needs to have been hit and hit hard. Uh, which, the severity of this ability probably makes sense. You don't want to be doing this every turn. Well, you want to be doing this every turn. You don't want to be facing this every turn.
Right. My first thought with this ability was, if Night Sisters were in the same faction as her, like it things could get ugly real quick because they die a lot,
Right.
and they go below 60% health, and she'd just constantly be spamming this ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, it this we'll see how much it's three times massive damage to target enemy. So like massive damage is what 100,000. I think that's what
Technically,
Imperial Chrome Droid does.
99.999. Yeah.
Right. So this does 300,000 damage. So my question is, like right now, that kills every character. Um, my question though is it going to get dated? Like right now, you blow a probe droid against someone who's Relic 7 and they live.
Right. I think eventually it does get dated, but yeah, both of these leads, which the leadership is actually coming up next. So all the tunes on the team are going to get 40% mastery plus an additional 30% health. Um, so when you do the math, let's just say you have a Kenobi on your team who's already at roughly 200,000 between health and protection, then you add another 70% to that. You're going to have tunes over 300k for health and protection at some point.
Right. All we need is like one more tier of relics or gear or something obnoxious
Yeah.
like that.
And I mean, we talked about this when I was gearing up my Haldo. She's basically at 200,000 right now for health and protection at relic level 5 for me. So if I so chose and gave her an extra 2 relic levels and then added her onto this Rey team, I mean, she'd be ridiculous to try and take down. Not that I'm going to do that, but so that massive damage is massive, but I think we're moving to the days where the numbers are going to start getting very, very big.
Yep, I agree. Um, yeah, it's an interesting place they're taking us to. Like the fact that they say it deals three times massive damage. Like, is that going to start being a thing? Like, oh yeah, this character does massive damage on his basic, and everyone's like, that's okay. Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
I don't think so. I think they're just trying to keep consistent with Scavenger Ray. You know how she does up to 4 hits with the whirlwind. I think that's what they're going for here. Uh, and of course, this is a Galactic Legend, so they have to make her hit harder. So here's a bunch of massive damage hits.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Like it seems like maybe they should have just redefined massive damage, or called it like ultimate massive damage or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it
Like
works.
massive damage is now a unit of measurement, in fact.
It's almost like a parsec. Uh, uh, all right. So
It almost is. Yep.
so now we have the leadership. It's all light side holy crap! All light side allies have 40% mastery, 30 speed, and 30% max health. Whenever an enemy gains bonus turn meter, all inspired light side allies gain an extra 5% mastery stacking until the end of the encounter. The first time each light side ally falls below 50% health, they gain damage immunity for 1 turn, which cannot be copied, dispelled, or prevented, and then they recover 50% health when it expires. So, we mentioned survivability earlier, and here it is. Here's how you keep your team alive.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Like, so they gain damage immunity, and that's that's an interesting mechanic because it like if the whole team, it says the first time each of them falls below 50% health. I wonder though, like how that's going to be enacted because, uh, you know, are they going to stop at if you do enough damage, if you do an annihilate on one of them, for instance, and you do enough damage to actually kill, or destroy an enemy, are they going to like stop at 1 health and have and be damage immune for a turn, or are they
Yeah.
just going to die? Like, is it just you fall below 50%, and when you're in that gray area, that's when you gain that buff? Otherwise, this doesn't ever kick in.
Yeah, that I don't know. I know in other tunes like L3 with her Zeta, it stops them at 1 damage. I When I read this, I thought that's how it was going to go, but who knows?
Right. I mean, I would believe either one, but that does change quite a bit. I mean, if I can stack exposes on a team like this or something, and then just like do one big hit on one of them, like hopefully they just die. I don't know.
Yeah,
But if they're stuck at one, then they get another turn. They get a chance to heal off of that as well, and she has massive healing for
right.
everyone.
Yeah, um, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting the first couple times we fight this team or fight with this team even.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting too. So she's, we'll get into other abilities, but one of her things is, no TM gain, no turn meter gain at all
Right.
on the kit.
Yeah.
You don't want that on the team, and uh, she does have a plus 30 speed to give everyone though. So, clearly she values being fast, but you have to do it the honest way.
Yeah. And that uh, we'll get into this with Kylo as well when we kind of do a comparison at the end, but both of these teams are anti-turn meter gain, which I find interesting for no other reason than CG has continuously said it's not all about speed. Um, these kits are it's just straight up what your speed mods are. Because
Right.
if there's no turn meter gain, it's do you have the faster tune?
Right, like just straight up. You can't have any like trick mechanics or anything. I guess one thing is if they start giving bonus turns, that's going to be different from turn meter gain,
That
bonus turn
is.
meter.
That is. And I was going to talk about that with Kylo as well. The difference between, say, a General Grievous bonus turn as opposed to gaining turn meter.
Well, yeah, I mean that's right now. That's what we're doing with, we have Jedi Knight Anakin with Padme, and they can't gain turn meter. That's part of her leadership. But they bypass that by Jedi Knight Anakin taking a bonus turn, as
Right.
well as Padme after
Yes.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so we'll see. We shall see. Um, now,
But
oh, go
she
on.
she's gonna have a really strong team regardless, just because all that mastery, all that speed, all the max health, like uh, you know, we're gonna want to. She's gonna be amazing right off the bat, even without her ultimate.
Right. And I also think, you know, they want straight up fast speed mods, but you don't. I think this is going to be a kit like General Skywalker's where there's so many things going on that the AI is not going to play this the right way. Now, who knows? They may have programmed it to play the right way, but I think even if you don't go first, you're going to be able to win.
Yeah, as with any really complex kit, I guess
Right.
some of them are, if they're really complex, they still play out in the AI's favor because they're, ultimately pretty simple. They just have to describe a process that is more technical than, meets the eye. But uh, in general, yeah, we're at the point right now, General Skywalker. If you have Relic 7 Skywalker, he beats every other General Skywalker team with no
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
And frankly, I hope that's what's going to happen here. If you have a Max Rey or Max Kylo, you're going to be able to beat other Max Reys and Kylos.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just better for the game. It's more annoying for me because I dropped down to 18 or 19 in arena overnight, where some other metas I was not dropping that far. But I do think it's better for the game.
I know I felt so entitled when they ended the Commander Luke meta and I fell out of top 10.
Right. uh, all right. Her first unique now. Uh, at the start of her turn, Rey becomes inspired. We've seen us inspired with New Finn and New Poe. So this is the thing for this team. If she already had Inspired, she will then grant Inspired to the healthiest light side ally who doesn't have it. Inspired light side allies dispel all debuffs on themselves when they use a basic ability during their turn, and they can't have their turn meter reduced. So, uh, first thing I thought about when I read this is it basically is going to work like Houndstooth in Fleet Arena, where you may be ability blocked for that turn, but you're going to dispel everything by just doing your basic.
Right. And basics aren't all bad. Hers
No,
isn't bad.
right. Yeah, exactly.
And so we're talking a lot about, there's going to be a lot of health and there's going to be a lot of health regeneration in this team. And one of the major weaknesses of that is just going to be healing immunity, the debuff healing
Right.
immunity. And this is a great way to kind of work around that weakness. Like if someone gets healing immunity, as long as it's not one of the locked debuffs, which
Yeah.
I think only one of those exists right now, anyways, in the form of Jedi Training Rey, who would be horrible against this team. Um, like unless it's locked, then you can get rid of it fairly quickly.
Yeah. Right. Now, my question becomes order of operations of do you do the basic, the damage then applies, and then you dispel, or is it you take your basic, dispel, then damage applies? Because the healing comes when that damage hits. So I wonder. My guess is the damage applies, then say the healing immunity would be dispelled.
Right. And order of operations are never these kits strong points. Like they don't define them at all.
Yeah.
Things that make sense to me are just like totally dismissed arbitrarily by
Right.
what the character actually does. So,
Right. Uh, all right. So second unique, uh, it's this unit takes reduced damage from percent health damage effects and massive damage effects. They take massive damage from destroy effects and are immune to stun. The unit has 10% max health and max protection per relic amplifier level, and the damage they receive is decreased by 30% overall. Uh, that means you already wanted relic level 7 on her, but you really want relic level 7 on her.
right.
Yeah. I can't imagine what their base stats are going to be with all of these multipliers for max health and protection. Because 70% with an R7 tune could get just ridiculously high.
Right. Actually, initially I read this ability as so you per relic amplifier the plus 10% health and protection, but then the damage they receive is decreased by 30% per relic level as well. So you get to this point really quickly, in fact, where damage is actually healing you,
Right.
which makes sense. But
Yeah.
uh, it is just kind of funny to think like CG's like, nope, we don't intend for these characters to die.
I mean, that's clearly what they're saying anyway. Uh, but, you
Yeah.
know, we've in the past two metas, the big problem has been the solo Malik and the solo GAS, and this is clearly setting up to be a solo Rey problem in the future as well.
Yep, she absolutely could be. Yeah, it's she could kill Jawas solo, you
that's
know.
that's all that matters. Yeah. uh,
But you know, it's good because she takes the reduced health or health percentage damage. But
right.
um, I mean, there's clearly higher callings to Ray. I mean, you know, she's going to be good regardless. But yeah, she's definitely going to also just be a one man wrecking team,
Yeah.
wrecking crew. I'm sure she's going to be probably better on a team. But if you feel like you just don't have a specific team for her, just gear her up and send her in solo, and she's gonna probably kill some people.
Right. Uh, all right. So the final thing, and this is uh, what's unique about the Galactic Legends, is they have an ultimate ability. They compared it to kind of a fleet commander's ultimate ability, and the way that these ultimates charge is different for each character, which I kind of like. Uh, so on this one, Rey gains 6% of an ultimate charge at the start of every character's turn. So it's almost like GAS gains protection at the start of every character's turn when he's kneeling. Now, what the ultimate ability is, it's until the end of Rey's next turn, she enters a defensive stance, and damage her light side allies receive is reduced to 1. While in the stance, Rey can't act, so she can't do anything. She has 30% less speed and is immune to all detrimental effects and cannot be defeated. Upon activating this ability again, she deals true damage, which ignores defense but can't critically hit, to the enemy team, split among them, and all ultimate charge is consumed. This attack can't be countered or evaded. Um, so I read this as basically the ability in P1 of the Sith Raid where you give somebody the little shield icon and uh, they can't
Yep.
they can't take a turn or anything. Their turn meter is reduced and they're immune to everything and cannot be defeated. Uh,
Right, but the whole team
right.
is
It basically gives your team guaranteed one more turn.
yeah, which is cool. You know, and she has all these mechanics of keeping her team alive.
Right.
One thing I'll point out is this is going to be great for the territory battle.
Oh yeah, Absolutely.
Instead of just getting completely blown off the table, she's got a kit that will keep her entire team on the table, guaranteed. Uh, you know, for
Yeah.
a while, just because she has her leadership, and then she has her this ultimate then as well that she could start using.
Right. Um, so that's the Rey kit. What are your overall thoughts about Galactic Legend Rey?
I think she's going to be obnoxious as hell.
Yes.
Like I see her. So Barris is much less annoying these days. But there was a day that I was just like, I refuse to play her. Like, I very rarely draw a line in the sand. It's, for ideals in terms of just like what characters I'll play. But she was so annoying to me and created such a poor playing experience for me a couple times that I was like, I'm just not going to do that to other players. And,
Yeah.
now I do have a Zeta Barris, and I do that to other players. But it's not as big of a deal now. She just her kid is aged, etc. But this is like a, a new Zeta Barris. She is going to be so annoying to play against. She's going to be as hated as Jolie, I think.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Um, you know, I I agree. I don't want to fight her except for with her or with new Kylo, which we'll talk about very shortly. But so as we are have read through this kit, as you've gotten a chance to think about it, uh, what do you think a team comp is for her?
Well, there's the obvious resistance stuff that everyone's going to slowly optimize over time. There's just the really really obvious, new Finn and new Poe. They
Yeah.
just have too much synergy with her to
Right.
ignore. Like with all the inspired stuff, like that's going to be the Rey trio right there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Uh,
Um, and then beyond that, like they did leave open a lot of theory crafting. Like she doesn't specifically help resistance; she helps light side.
right.
So what you were talking about Chewie? What other things were you thinking of?
Yeah. So my first thought was Scavray and Chewie, and just go hard because a lot of people I've heard describe this kit as or compare the kits and say Kylo's the attack, the full offense team. He's the guy that's gonna pound the other team. This Rey kit, Rey may not be the damage dealer. She may be. We'll kind of find out about her stats, but the way her kit is set up, you can run 4 attackers on this team, or even 5 attackers on this team, and just destroy teams because you're not going to be able to kill the squishy attacker, and you can just roll through them with a bunch of high damage tunes. That's why Scav and Chewie were my first thoughts for fourth and fifth spots. Plus, most people already have, well, to have her, you're going to have Scav Rey at R7, and most people already have Chewie Relic as well. So it'll be the easy transition team at the very least. Uh, I was also the other team I thought about was adding R2 to the team because R2 just boosts stats. So you're going to be boosting ridiculously high boosted stats, which is nice. Plus, stealth will help you control um, even more. And I think that's kind of Resistance's calling card. Back from the original days of the Resistance, they've always been a control team. And then I actually thought about adding General Skywalker to this team with the reasoning that when you mirror match, these teams, you're going to be fighting a team with super boosted health and max health and base health. And so the way you want to fight that is put somebody out there that's going to reduce your max health. So I thought GAS might be a good fifth on this team as well, since he is light side. He is overpowered as well. And I think you might be able to plug him into this team. So those are the two teams I kind of came up with. Obviously, both of them steal from another team in Grand Arena, I wouldn't mind stealing Chewie from the CLS team and just making a different CLS team. It weakens that CLS team, but he's a strong enough lead that you could probably do something else. I would never run GAS with Rey in Grand Arena just because of uh, what that would do to the other teams.
Right. Well, yeah. You take you destroy an entirely viable team on his own,
Right.
and stick him with Ray. I mean, maybe there's a situation you want to do that, but not too often. One team I thought of was Ray with the two heroes,
Yeah.
resistance heroes, and then I like the idea of L3 and Vendor Chewbacca. I don't know exactly if that's going to work, but I like the idea of they have all this protection regen, they have all this stuff that is going to get you max banners and everything, and L3 if she's taunting is going to be really obnoxious, especially if she gets the second special where you do 30% less damage.
Yeah.
And then if you kill L3, then Vander Chewbacca can revive her. And I doubt that that's going to be the best team, but I do like the idea of everything she does just impacts light side, so you can start using some pretty random other characters that are outside of the Resistance faction.
Yeah, it's going to make some very interesting theory crafting. Um, I can only imagine in raids or even territory battles. Uh, but like you said earlier, I think what we're going to see is we're going to settle on one team or an A team and then like an A minus team for Grand Arena just because we don't want to be breaking up so many teams. The one thing I do like about this kit is my current JTR team, which at the moment is, the JTR trio of her, BB-8, and R2, and then original Finn and Haldo. That team's not going to be touched by New Rey. So I'm going to have two ridiculously strong resistance teams now, which makes me happy. Because that JTR team can do so much, and I get to keep it.
Yeah, and like you don't want BB-8 on that team
No, no, you don't.
because everyone's getting turn meter and you get penalized for that.
Right. Uh, all right. So we've talked a bunch about Rey.
We
Shortly
have.
after the Rey kit, we got the Kylo kit. Um, so looking at the thumbnail, he is a obviously dark side. He's an attacker. He's a leader, and he's first order. It's basically the same as Rey when it comes to the tags, just the dark side version.
Right, he doesn't have the Knights of Ren tag, so
Yeah. Yet.
right.
We'll see.
So, well, and really, if we're talking about this version of him, it's like I don't know. I guess maybe he is still part of Knights of Ren
True.
for a lot of it, but
Yeah. Though, I guess it depends what part of the movie they steal from. Because the Knights of Ren were there when he was Supreme Leader, Kylo, in the movie. At least the
right,
last movie.
it's true. Yeah, I honestly, after seeing the movie, I could care less if we get a Knights of Ren
Yeah.
faction. They look cool, but I mean, they all just got owned so hard by
True.
Kylo. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. But so, Kylo's kit, his basic ability inflict buff immunity for 2 turns and deal physical damage to that tune twice. If the target was already stunned, deal damage again and gain advantage for 2 turns. If it's Kylo's turn, he gains 10 Siphon until the end of the encounter. Now, Siphon is at one point, Kylo will gain 1% of a stat per stack, and the target will lose that amount gained. So, um, I kind of like this idea of you're gonna steal the stats of the other tunes, so you're slowly weakening them. I like that. I like how Jedi Knight Revan does that. he does it really well to Nest, where you kind of take away the health, but now you're increasing your own as well, and that's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I've always liked those kind of vampire effects.
Right.
Um, what one complaint I have about the game in general is the record keeping in the fight is just really bad. Like
Yes.
I would like to know, for instance, I would love it if Hera was able to, have some kind of target reticle above someone's head that says that they're the strongest or whatever so she can expose someone if she doesn't have any other better priorities with her basic. And I know that Phoenix is a pretty low priority to them right now, and I get it. They're not a high priority for me, despite what Solo always
Anymore.
says.
They're not a high priority for you anymore. Well,
Okay. All right. So let's move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
all right. So the basic is the basic ability to. It's this first special. Uh, Dispel all buffs on all enemies and stun target enemy for 2 turns, which cannot be copied, dispelled, or resisted. Then deal physical damage to target enemy, and Kylo gains 20 siphon until the end of the encounter. If it was a critical hit, he gains 40 siphon instead. The attack cannot be evaded. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's obnoxious as hell.
yes. And I do like the consistency from KRU with the stun for 2 turns.
Yeah, that's great. Like all three versions can stun.
Right. It's like we saw the multi hit with JTR kind of evolve from Scav to JTR to New Rey, and so I like how this ability has also evolved through the 3 Kylos as well.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I wouldn't have cared necessarily if it wasn't there, but I do like that continuity.
Yeah. Uh, I think the biggest thing about this ability is load up Kylo with crit chance. I'm sure his relic amplifiers will do that as an attacker, and give him 40 stacks of siphon, um, and just increase his vampirism uh, immensely.
Well, 40%. I mean, that's close to, but not equal to 50%.
Funny
Like,
how that works. Yeah.
yeah, but you're taking these stats from
Right.
someone else. Like you're taking a huge amount of their viability. Like I remember when Treya was first announced, and it was like if you attack outside of your turn, then you're like minus 50% offense or something. And
Right.
like the damage reduction is real on that squad. Like
Yeah.
this is basically the same thing. I mean, it's well, except it's permanent.
Right.
Like he just gains these 40 siphon, and no one else has an ability that says like reduce the siphon level
Yeah.
by X. Like he has 40 siphon, and that character has negative 40 siphon, and they're just screwed. Like they only have
Yeah.
60 left. you know
Yeah. The one thing I think about this ability, or we took the night and we did this video a day later. The one thing that came to my mind is a lot of people at the beginning said that they didn't think Kylo looked as strong as JTR. Um, there's one part of the JTR kit where she grants crit immunity. Basically, I think it's to stop this. I think in playtesting, they did the Kylo versus, or not JTR, the Rey. I'm just so used to saying JTR.
I
They
was
did,
smiling
yeah,
about that inside, mocking you in
right.
my head.
I'm okay with that. Uh, but so I think they did playtesting and they added that crit hit immunity after after they did the playtesting of Kylo versus Rey because of this ability specifically.
That very well could be. I mean, they also said that characters with synergy. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but or was it like the General Kenobi
Yeah.
thing?
Yep.
If you can avoid getting crit, then that's going to be helpful. And
Yeah. And I think it's because of this ability. They put General Kenobi as the fill-in tank for every suggestion. Uh, but that crit hit immunity with this ability, I can see. I still won't be bringing Kenobi to my team, but I can see why the suggestion is there.
We're talking about this, but it's actually assuming that the turn or the order of operations is that they dispel all buffs on enemies. Like
True.
they're not going to be able to, not have this happen to them.
That is true. Who knows? Um, I guess we'll find
Unless
out.
unless we start getting locked crit immunity, which is possible. I don't know.
But yeah, who knows?
He can't do it to Jolie at least, so that's something.
Yeah. Um, okay, next ability is the Special 2. And in this one, it's deal physical damage to all enemies. Kylo siphons mastery from the target enemy. It's doubled if they were stunned. Um, and this siphon can't be resisted. Then dispel all debuffs on all dark side allies and grant them advantage for 2 turns. Now, they have the definition of siphon mastery here. It's gain a percentage of mastery equal to the unit siphon until the end of the encounter, and the target loses that much mastery, which stacks. Um, though it stacks excluding other galactic legends. So Kylo can't do this to other Kylos, or the stacking can't happen to other Kylos and can't happen to Rey. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I guess that's fine. There's like 180 other targets you can choose, including
right.
5 Jawas.
Yeah, exactly. God, Jawas. All right, moving on. We can't discuss that. Um, all right.
Very well.
So, obviously, Kylo is a leader. He's a galactic legend. That's the point of him. His lead is dark side allies have 40% mastery and an extra 50% critical damage. Whenever a dark side ally loses advantage without scoring a critical hit, they gain advantage back for 1 turn at the end of their turn. Uh, so if they hit somebody with crit immunity and don't crit, they don't lose the advantage. Now, whenever a dark side ally gains advantage, if they didn't already have it, they gain a bonus based on their roll. So tanks taunt for 2 turns, attackers gain crit damage up for 2 turns, and supports and healers gain 20% turn meter. And that one is very interesting based on the unique that we're going to talk about shortly after this. But it is fun that the tanks are going to taunt, so KRU is basically going to keep a permataunt. That's the way I read it.
Yeah, if you have Kylo Ren unmasked in there, which you may very well. And my question is, which tanks in the game care about constantly being able to taunt? Like,
Yeah.
would Royal Guard be good here, for instance?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't really know. He just takes damage. Like he's not that dynamic, if he got an update. But
Right.
we're gonna have to start looking like when tanks are coming out, it's like they're just gonna be taunting a lot.
Yeah.
Like with his kit and everything. It doesn't have to be first order. Like it could be just some random extra tank. And like is Gamorrean Guard here good here? Probably not, but
Probably not. Let's hope that we're not relicking Morian Guard now.
you never know. But my point is just that you know forcing taunt or tanks to taunt all the time is really really good because in general there's a lot. Maybe there's some tanks you don't want to take hits, but
Right.
for the most part, I mean they are tanks for a reason. So
Yes. Yes. Um, all right. Unique one. Supreme Leader Kylo is immune to stagger and can't gain taunt effects. Uh, that's mainly for Darth Revan teams. And enemies defeated during his team can't be revived. Whenever a dark side ally loses turn meter, they gain 10% of their current max health and max protection, which does stack. And whenever a dark side ally gains bonus turn meter, they lose 10% of their current max health and max protection, which will stack. So, comparing it with his lead, where supports are going to gain 20% turn meter when they gain advantage, and now down here you're seeing that they are going to lose 10% of their max health basically every time they gain advantage.
Yep. And I don't know what to like. This one is really hard for me to wrap my mind around because um, it's not only what guys you can take, but it's also what teams you can take as a counter.
Yeah,
Because if you're taking, for instance, if Jedi Training Rey uh, was to be a good counter in theory to this team, like so you get expose on everyone, and then you do a special, and all their turn meter is reduced, and doing that, you're giving them plus 10% of their max health and max protection. Like,
yeah,
and that's on all five characters if you've exposed all five, and so it like Jedi Training Rey will never, at least as leader, she will never be a counter to this team. At least as I read it, like she's causing too much havoc with turn meter, and so it's not just a consideration of who goes with him; it's also
yeah.
who we're going to counter with.
Right. Or think about every time Rex uses his basic. If you want to use General Skywalker teams, Rex is reducing turn meter, so every time Rex attacks, he's strengthening the opponent.
Right. It's and I'm sure that there's going to be some characters who do some turn meter things that you just have to accept and they're
Yeah.
still good. But yeah, the turn meter thing is like I think the bigger implication here, both of these characters have all this turn meter stuff, and we've talked about it previously a little bit, but like there are certain teams that can trade up, so to speak, because of turn meter manipulation. Like
Yeah.
Commander Luke right now is a counter for General Skywalker because his team gets so much bonus turn meter against him and can reduce turn meter, in a lot of ways. And, you know, all these different teams that can do that to General Skywalker can do it because of turn meter, and that's it. Like their kits aren't more powerful than him. It's just, their mechanics, and this just shuts down that mechanic entirely.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure out a counter. Somebody is going to figure out a counter this because you can't have other than Rey, other than another Galactic Legend, because you can't have an unbeatable team. But like you said, it's going to be hard to trade up with this team. Um, so we'll see. Maybe it's going to be some Padme variant because they don't really rely on stealing turn meter. Um, it's going to be interesting theory crafting, both of what team we're going to use and then what team is going to be used to beat them. Uh,
Right.
all right, so Kylo's last unique is this unit takes reduced damage from percent health, damage effects, and massive damage effects. They take massive damage from destroy effects, so this is and immune to stun effects. This is word for word with JTR. And this unit has 10% max health and max protection per relic amplifier, and damage they receive is decreased by 30%. So unique 2 basically is the same as Galactic Legend Rey, um, word for word. So we've already kind of
Yep.
talked about that. So why don't we move on to his ultimate, because his ultimate is it. I kind of like this one better than Rey's ultimate. So the way you charge up the ultimate is he gains 2% ultimate charge whenever a dark side ally deals physical or special damage to an enemy, and that is increased to 5% if they get a critical hit. Uh, Now, the text of the actual ultimate is Supreme Leader Kylo dispels all debuffs on himself, enters an aggressive stance, and deals physical damage to all enemies which can't be evaded. While in this stance, Kylo is immune to damage and detrimental effects, can't be defeated. His siphon is doubled, and his abilities have 0 cooldowns. Now, unlike Rey, who you have to wait for 100% of her ultimate charge to use, Kylo has levels of this. So, with 60% ultimate charge, his aggressive stance lasts 1 turn, 85% it lasts 2 turns, and 100% is it lasts 3 turns. The one kind of check on this is that it can't be used at the same time that he was already in aggressive stance. So you can't use the aggressive stance for 3 turns and then while he's in aggressive stance just renew the aggressive stance. So there will come a time where you get 1 turn to kill Kylo.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's yeah. I like how it gives you the option of initiating the ultimate charge. I like how the siphon is doubled. So if by this time, if it's say his 3rd turn, and he has at that point 60 to 80 siphon, and now it's up to 160%, he is just making opposing tunes into nothing. Like he just he turns them all into hitting like Barris essentially.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate control thing. Like once he gets ultimate, I mean, it's called ultimate, so
Right.
I
Makes
guess that's
sense.
not too
Yeah.
creative of me, but like it's just going to really suck to face this as well. That being said, I think this is going to be more fun to play against than Ray.
Probably less frustrating. But I do think there are certain teams that you just go in, you know, you click the start button and you're dead. you know, like a
Right.
faster Darth Revan or some of the General Grievous nuke teams where it just you blink and all of a sudden your team is gone. That's what fighting this Kylo is going to be like. You're going to blink and all of a sudden the team is gone.
Well, like what do you do when he gets his ultimate and then he uses siphon for 40? He gets a crit
Yeah.
and he uses siphon for 40, which is escalated to 80 on your General Skywalker.
Right. Yeah. Skywalker dies fast. That's what happens.
Right. Like it sounds like Skywalker is just not going to be a counter to this team, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Skywalker basically did that to Malik, and so now it looks like somebody's doing it to Skywalker.
Yeah. Um, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I do think that this kit is very strong. People are saying, we've had a day to hear people, and all I hear, frankly, everything that I've heard, everyone is saying that Ray is obviously better than Kylo.
Yeah, I
And
don't I don't agree with that. I think they're both fantastic.
yeah, they're both going to be amazing. If you have
Yeah,
one and your opponent doesn't have one, it's going to be a big issue
right. I
for
think
whoever doesn't have one, I
yeah,
should say.
I think the reason people are saying that is it's hard to imagine Kylo taking 160% of say a General Skywalker stats and then turning that around and using it. It just with Rey, you see her kit and you can picture, okay, this person's going to be impossible to kill, or she just gave 50% health back. It's easy to visualize that. With Kylo, it's just he's becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. He's not helping the team. He's kind of very selfish in this. And by the end of the fight, it's just going to be Kylo going nuts. Which actually, as I'm saying that, that's pretty much exactly what Kylo was like through the 3 movies. So I think that's actually developed kind of well with him.
Yeah, like his leadership is funny. It's like tanks taunt for 2 turns. He's like, yeah, like do your job, like take
Right.
hits,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
die. I don't care. I don't care what happens to you. If they don't kill you, I might.
Right. Um, okay, so let's talk quickly about a couple of um, potential team comps with Kylo. You know, the first one I thought about is how do we get this ultimate charge quickly? And so it would be new Kylo, and KRU, and then we'd have Red Panda, and we'd put in Special Force TIE Pilot. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but he is one of the few First Order that has an AoE that doesn't have turn meter manipulation in his kit. And then everybody's going to have a Relic 7 Palp. And so you're going to put Palpatine in this too, so that he can open up with his AoE. And within the first two turns, you're going to have between 75 and 85% of this ultimate charge charged up. Um, so it's kind of a not necessarily a fantastic team as a team unit, but it's basically built here to just get Kylo super amped as fast as possible.
Fair.
Yeah.
Um, One team I thought of, which is funny. I don't know how viable it would be, but like, initially I was thinking, well, B1 and B2 have some obvious synergy with him just because they do AOE's. You could, I guess, try to get B2 to crit and everything, and then uh, my thoughts took me a little bit farther, and I was like, what if you just took B1 and B2 and Magna Guard and General Grievous?
I did think about Grievous as well
This
in this.
they all do crits, and Grievous would still, have his bonus turns, and Kylo would be forcing B2 and Magna Guard to taunt.
Right. Yeah. Except for B1's not critting in that situation.
He's still getting 2%, and he's
True.
he's constantly
The
he's
constant
constantly
assists.
shooting with them. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that'll add up pretty quick.
It probably will. That would be ridiculous. I do think you want Red Panda in this team, though. Uh,
Yeah, probably. Though he's gonna be great with the other guys too.
True. Uh, I don't think like they give the suggested units of Hux here. I don't think you want Hux on this team. Uh,
I agree. I was gonna say the same actually.
yeah, I try to think of a team that includes Hux that would actually be good, and with Kylo obviously, and I couldn't. I think Hux was put into this game to give a good lead to the remaining First Order tunes so that people aren't saying, we got these tunes to R5 and R7 and we can't even use them. I think Hux is there to make a strong second First Order team.
Right, and just to clarify, and maybe you just said this, and I just totally spaced you out. But like Hux is good because well, he's good. He's good on his own, but the reason you don't want him with Kylo here is because you you want uh let's see.
It's it's his basic is why you don't want it because he can gain turn meter on his basic. So
Yeah, that's
every
what it is.
every time Hux takes a turn, he's basically killing himself. Or I should say, Kylo is killing him, which is quite appropriate.
Right. So it's yeah, he's plus I hate the idea of the only other leader for the whole faction being Phasma.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
because Kylo Ren Unmasked might be with this team, might not. Honestly,
Yeah.
there's certain synergies with stun and everything that you can't quite ignore. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, and you say that you think that Red Panda should go with Kylo, and I think he's going to be a great fit. But he's also a wonderful fit with Hux
Sure. Um,
because of all of his assists and his
yeah.
basics do extra damage from Hux's lead. Like,
Right.
going to be fantastic.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of fun things to play with on this team. Um, but with that, we've been rambling on about this team for a good amount of time. We've basically done a mini podcast here, or not a mini podcast. We've done our normal podcast for just these two tunes. But I think they needed an in-depth review, and so I'm glad we could provide it for you guys.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be fun if you have them. If you don't, you're gonna be motivated in ways you've never been motivated to acquire them somehow.
Right. I will say this for the people worried about it. There's nothing. There's probably nothing I can say to help you in arena if you're not going to get him or one of these tunes. But in Grand Arena, if you're nowhere close to getting them, that means your competition probably is nowhere close to getting them because that means you don't have all these tunes relicked. Everyone that has them will have more tunes than they want relicked. So you probably won't be in the same Grand Arena brackets, which is one positive if you're not going to get them either right away or anytime soon.
Yep. And also just as far as matchmaking goes, it's based off of your max points on your characters. The people with Galactic Legend, whatever, Rey or Kylo, their GP is going to skyrocket for this because they're going to have 6 Zetas and all the way up to Relic 7.
Yeah, I can only imagine the GP on either one of these Galactic Legends.
Gonna be crazy. And then I assume that once you get the ultimate, it's gonna be a huge addition as well. So
Right.
like these guys are gonna be like 40 or 50K on their own. So yeah, like they're gonna put you in your own category,
Yeah.
once you get unlock them. Yeah. So there's that. One just random side effect that I was thinking about with these. And it doesn't necessarily bear too much thought, but they added that neutral tag a while ago because
Yeah.
T3 should have been neutral back when he was released, and
Right.
they regretted it, so they added a neutral tag, and they haven't used it since. They're probably just going to get rid of it now though,
Yeah.
because like you can't have, or they're not. It doesn't look like they're going to have any neutral Galactic Legends, and if T3 really was legitimately neutral, he wouldn't actually be able to be used with either of these characters.
Right.
And no one is really going to be lamenting the lack of T3 is my guess, but um that's really going to make it so that other characters who do fit that neutral tag like are just kind of left out. Like
Yeah.
their possibilities are extremely limited. So
Right. Yep.
anyways, beyond that we can go.
All
Let's
right.
hang.
I will say, thank you for joining us. If you've stuck with us this whole time, um, if you're new to our content, in the description below, Xaereth will have a link to our Discord channel. Uh, it is mostly a Grand Arena and Territory War focused Discord channel. We'll have a link to our podcast in the description below because you basically witnessed the podcast here. We put them out. We try for every Monday night into Tuesday morning, and we have the counter sheet, which is a Google document that is a fantastic resource. It's every team we faced, the full team that we faced. We show the full team that we used when we faced them, and then most importantly, there's a time-stamped link uh, that brings you to the video of us fighting them, so you can see how good of a counter it is, what steps we use in the counter, and we are both pretty good about describing why we do stuff in each fight, so that you can hopefully learn how to use the counter as well. And with that said, thank you for staying with us, and have a good night.
Yeah, be sure to leave a like if you feel like it. See ya, guys.